Hi folks, how you doing? This is just going to be a quick video to address a problem and an issue that I found with the steering of this car, or the steering lock rather of this car, the BMW M2 CS Racing, which came with the new Challengers Pack DLC for Assetto Corsa Composizione by Kunos Simulations. And by the way, it's brilliant DLC for a tenner, 5 cars, and they're all brilliant. Get it, it's awesome. Anyway, I made a video reviewing that car in which I identified this issue with the steering, and that issue is now solved, thanks to and I want to say big thanks to you, mate. A guy, after I posted my video, a guy came up, or I don't know, I assume it's a guy, was on the Assetto Corsa forums, and he gave me a little tip on the steering here, and I want to share that with you all now, so thanks very much, mate, because it was a real bugbear of mine. So, in that video, I stated that if you want a 1-to-1 steering ratio in this car, then you would have to set it to 400 degrees. I was wrong! Not exactly, but I kind of was. So, what I mean is, I use the zero lock trick. Now, if you don't know what the zero lock trick is, there's a video. I'll leave a link to that video in the description of this video. Skip through to about 7 minutes 30 in that video and you'll see the full explanation of how it works. It works for every car, but as it turns out, just not this one. So if you set your steering lock in-game to 0, and you have a steering wheel like mine, on which, with the touch of a couple of buttons, you can change the steering lock, how far it'll lock on the actual wheel. You set the steering lock in-game to 0 and you leave it there, which means that you never ever have to go and change the lock in-game for every different car, because every different car in ACC has got a different lock, or most of them do. You never have to touch that again. All you have to do is set up the correct lock on your steering wheel, and that works really well for every car, just not this one. So to find the exact lock, once I'd got that set to 0, I found that I set my wheel to 600, 500, a little bit less, it was still turning more, and then got it down to 400, and then I got an exact, as you can see, there's an exact, I've got my steering wheel exactly at 90 degrees here, steering wheel on screen is exactly 90 degrees. So that 400 is correct if you're using the zero lock trick, but it's not correct because it's not the exact lock of the car. You see, and the other problem was, and this is only with this car, if I turn my steering wheel round to the end of lock, so you can see that the steering wheel on screen has stopped, I've then got extra play. Look at that. The steering wheel on screen has stopped, but I've got more travel. And that's a real bugbear of mine. I really hate that because, of course, if you're on a full-on slide and you want to then counter steer, that initial, if you're turned all the way on the wheel, but the actual wheel on, you know, it's redundant, if you've got redundant degrees of steering on the screen on your actual wheels in your car, then your first initial reaction isn't going to count. So that was really bugging me. And anyway, so I put this video up online, and so, this person, Sizziano, came onto the Assetto Corsa forums and said, actually, the steering lock for that car is 360, and he was right and I was wrong. And I like being wrong, because if you're wrong, someone will immediately point out the fact that you are, and then you'll learn something. So I figured out, well, why isn't that working in game for me? So I thought I'd go back into controls and do what I used to do, which is set the in-game steering lock to the correct lock of the car, 360, and set my wheel to 360. And you're probably thinking, well, why didn't you just do that in the first place? And that's because the zero lock trick works for every car. For instance, if I go into the new Porsche, which has got 540 degrees of steering, and I set the lock to 0 in the game, but I set my wheel to 540, it goes round at 540 and stops exactly where it should do as well. And it's 1-to-1 steering. Just not for this car. So I've set that to 360 now in the game. I've got my wheel here set to 360. Now, if I jump in the car and turn the wheel, I've got 1-to-1 steering at 360, even though it was 1-to-1 at 400 last time round. But also, when I get to the end of the lock, the wheel on screen stops and my wheel stops on the soft or hard locks as well. So I've now got perfect steering. So thank you very much, Sizziano, for pointing that out. Now, the reason that, as soon as he said this, I thought he must be right, because Kuno's simulations assumably get all their data from BMW, so you'd expect them to know the correct lock, as do Studio 397, who make R Factor 2. And this car's in R Factor 2, and the steering locks that are available in that car, because in R Factor 2, unlike ACC, it has an automatic. It sets your steering wheel automatically and stops the wheel via the driver. I wish ACC had that, but it doesn't. Anyway, one of the locks available was 360. By default, it was about 498 or something like that. But there was no option for 400. So I thought it would make sense that 400 is not the correct lock. So I've got the correct lock now. That's all I wanted to say, and mainly just want to say thanks to Sizziano. If you want to see that review, by the way, of this car, it's the last video I made. You can find that easily, but I will leave a link to the zero lock trick, because that's harder to find, in the description for this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks to Sizziano. And if you enjoy my videos and you find them useful, then if you want this channel to survive, do me a favor and hit subscribe. May seem like a small thing to do, but it enables me to make more videos for you. By hitting that button, you can help us subscribe and keep this channel alive. Don't cost nothing, don't take no time. Come on now, keep this channel alive. Please hit subscribe. Please hit subscribe.